Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to be talking about some interesting developments that have been happening over at Disney slash Lucasfilm. This time, not about Star Wars, surprisingly, but about their other big franchise, which is Indiana Jones. Now, it was rumored a few years ago that Indiana Jones was getting a fifth installment. There was confusion on whether or not it would be a sequel to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull or whether it would be a reboot. And it was rumored that Chris Pratt and Bradley Cooper could possibly take the role of Indiana Jones. However, Harrison Ford dashed that and said that he did not want to have the character recast. Now we are learning that they are essentially restarting the production process on this film. Again, it was announced, I think, when Disney acquired uh, Lucasfilm, which was back in 20, or at least it was announced back in 2015 that they were planning on doing another Indiana Jones outing. Now, the concerning part about this is that the writer who is currently attached to the project is a man named David Cope, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but if I'm not, somebody will probably correct me. But David Cope is the same person who wrote Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and that is where we run into our problem because David Cope does have a very good resume when it comes to making films. He wrote the screenplay for the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. He wrote the screenplay for Jurassic Park, as well as Mission Impossible. And Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds, as well as both of the sequels to the Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, and Inferno. But see, the thing is that a lot of those were very far away. A lot of those are not very recent. And when you look at some of his recent screenplays, you have stuff like Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit, which again I haven't seen it, so I don't necessarily know if it's a bad movie, but I'm pretty sure it did not garner a lot of box office attention. And the reboot of The Mummy, which was universally hated. So he doesn't have a very good track record lately. And that is concerning in the sense that this man has proven that he does not understand how to write a good Indiana Jones outing. And I think that maybe it could have had something to do with, well, at least Kingdom of the Crystal Skull could have had something to do with Lucas inserting himself into the production process like he normally did. So that's a possibility. But I'm not 100% sure on that. Again, it's something that probably happened behind the scenes, so we'll never know for sure. But Lucas did write the original three screenplays, so I'm assuming he had a large amount of input on this screenplay. And the production of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was very tumultuous to begin with. So this is very interesting, but I think again you run into kind of the same problems you did with Crystal Skull when you're doing a sequel like this, because they have stated that this is going to be a sequel. This is going to be a continuation of the Indiana Jones series. This is not going to be a reboot or anything like that with somebody else playing the character. Harrison Ford would return again to play Indy, and the thing is that he is very old now. He is Harrison Ford. I think is closing in on 80 if he's not over 80 already. And there's some concerns there where you have the believability factor. Back when he was doing Indiana Jones, he was in his 30s. He played somewhat younger. I mean, he really didn't age too much through those films in terms of his aesthetic. You could still make him look relatively the same age. But now it's a different. Again, a problem that the Crystal Skull also had. Now, the other thing is that when you look at the original three films as opposed to Crystal Skull, the original three Indiana Jones films all had something to do with some magical or religious or supernatural artifact. The first one was the Ark of the Covenant, which is supposedly the vessel that Moses stored the Ten Commandments tablets in. The second one involved these sacred river stones that Indian culture have, and then the third one involved the Holy Grail, the supposedly the blessed cup, from King Arthur. And all of those had some routing in history, and all of them had something to do with something. They all had their supernatural tones, and there was always this kind of mysticism about it. And then when you get to Crystal Skull, then you're going into extraterrestrials, and that's a jump that I don't think a lot of people wanted to make. And the Crystal Skulls are an actual historical artifact. There were a number of them that were found in South America. Um, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea. Um, to go with that as a historical artifact, but when you go into the realm of, you have flying saucers and aliens and stuff in an Indiana Jones movie, I think you have thoroughly fucked up. Because it's about history and mysticism and supernatural elements. You don't combine the supernatural and the extraterrestrial very often and come out with a good result. Usually, you keep those things separate. So I think that's a problem they're going to run into now too, where they've introduced this into the universe. So I mean, best case scenario is they totally ignore most of the stuff that happened in Crystal Skull. And again, you also have the issue where I'm assuming they'll write Shia LaBeouf's character out of the film. Because I don't think they're even going to be able to get him back anyway. And then the marriage that he has to Marion Ravenwood, I don't know if that's going to continue. Again, that's another interesting little wrinkle in this, because you are carrying on the narrative from a previous film. So you got to find what worked in Crystal Skull, which there isn't a lot, to be honest, and try and combine it with what worked in the original three films. Because now you're getting to the point where this is probably going to be Ford's last Indiana Jones film if it ever gets made, because he is at such an advanced age now. It's kind of like Sylvester Stallone with Rambo. I don't see Sylvester Stallone making another Rambo film after Last Blood because he's just that old. I don't think he can keep carrying that character on for a number of years. And the same thing with Indiana Jones. And I think inevitably it will probably lead to either a prequel. Well, they even did a prequel called Young Indiana Jones, which is the television series. But I think that they'll probably wind up either doing a prequel or a reboot, and I'm leaning more towards reboot because there's probably a lot of very young actors that they already have on the Marvel and Star Wars side of things that they probably want to tap for it. Again, someone like a Chris Pratt or a Bradley Cooper or something like that. So this is just some early concerns for this, and again, I feel like this franchise, you should have ended it after the Last Crusade, because carrying it forward now, I think, just demeans the story to a point. I don't think it does anything to enhance the story. And I kind of went over this a bit in my Do Sequels Go Too Far. I think Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was going a step too far. I think making a fifth one would also be going a step too far. But, this thing has been in development hell for a number of years. And I don't think it has a lot of fan support right now. I don't even know if Harrison Ford really supports making this film. So it would be very interesting to see that in the future, depending on what happens. But that's just a little tidbit of news for today. Something that's kind of interesting with another beloved franchise that Disney also owns. But I want to know what you think. Would you like to see a fifth Indiana Jones outing? Do you think that Harrison Ford should come back and play the character? Do you think it should be rebooted? Do you think it should just be left alone? Put your thoughts in the comments. Again, I like to read them. Make sure to hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?